Hello and welcome to the first session on live streaming for CSUN ATC TV Broadcast Studio. The first session today is Reaching Saturation, Scoping Your Accessibility Research. A key to a well-scoped study is ensuring enough participants accurately represent your findings. Fable sets out to share their proven best practices related to different study types to help make accessibility obtainable for organizations. I'm going to introduce Elena Chapman from Fable right now. Thanks for being here.
Hi, folks. Thank you for the warm welcome on a Friday morning. I know it's been a long conference, so lovely to see some folks in the room. Dave has given me a lovely intro, so I'll just dive right in from here and talk about what we're going to go over today. So I know not everyone at this conference is familiar with UX research or terms like saturation, so I'll break that down first and then kind of take you folks through a study that we conducted at Fable just to understand a bit more what saturation actually looks like when we're working with assistive technology users. And then we'll geek out on findings for a little bit before I take us into what do we go from here with something like this, with a study like this. I'll introduce myself a little bit for folks in the room in case you don't know me. I'm the Accessibility Research Manager at Fable, which is just a fancy way to say I love talking about research methodologies. Anything and all things research, please always send me a ping, send me an email. I love chatting about that. I came into accessibility, though, from sign language linguistics. And so that's where my heart and my love is. A fun fact, though, is I'm a national champion curler, and the key to doing that when you live in Canada is to do it in the US before you move. I would be remiss if I don't mention my colleagues at Fable who helped with this study, Kavna Ramesh, Gabriela Barneva, and Lauren Beck, who did a lot of the brunt work for this work, and I'm extremely appreciative of what they've done. On the screen, there's a photo of me to introduce you folks to a bit of the beauty of Canada. I'm situated in front of Banff National Park, where there's a beautiful lake that's reflecting the sky with blue hints as the mountains kind of cascade together in the background. So let's get into UX research. For folks in the room who've never heard the term saturation, I'll define it as in a qualitative study, it's a point where themes emerging from that research are fleshed out enough such that conducting more interviews won't provide new insights. That would alter those themes. Our quotes from our hotly debated Nielsen Norman group, who made some waves in the accessibility community and research community lately. But I'll touch a little bit on that article because there was an interesting line in it around the disability community is very vast, and how do you talk to everyone? How do you capture everyone's experiences? The community is not a monolith, and there's some truth behind that. And so I think it's important to still engage with this type of discourse, even if it's got some other tones to it. But so for saturation, when we're talking about that in UX research, there's also different contexts that it exists in. And so on the screen, I have three categories of generative, usability, and accessibility, or A11Y. And so when we're talking about generative research, this means kind of early stage on scoping out, shifting as far left as we possibly could. And this is where typically folks are recommending 6 to 20. I know for the journal track at CSUN, a lot of folks have way more than 20 participants. Depends on your scope, how much research you can run, but it also depends on what you're trying to find out, what you're trying to uncover, what decisions you're trying to make. And so broader number for that group. Usability, though, you hear the number 5 quite a bit, and that could be 5 participants in total. That could be 5 participants per persona. When we get into accessibility research, though, I have screen reader users, I have magnification users, I have folks who navigate by speech, I have folks who navigate by their eyes, Am I treating them all as a different persona? Do I treat them all as one group? And I have a recommendation that I typically give folks, which is a sweet spot of 7 that I like to say. But I also get folks who say, I don't have time for 7. And I'm like, okay, can you do 5? And then I have folks who say, I really don't have time for 5. And it's like, well, can we start with 3? And you get into this situation where you're negotiating down your participant pool. And we've said this so much. I know for our research team, we make these recommendations. We work with folks to figure out what's a good timing. What do you have time for? What do you have budget for is a big piece of this. And you know what? We thought, let's actually see what the numbers say. And so we thought about it in terms of accessibility research. And so let's say I'm planning a study and I'm trying to hit saturation. Let's meet with someone who uses Fusion, magnification user that also uses a screen reader, gets to assistive text in one go. Okay, but if I test with someone who uses magnification and also a screen reader, I should probably meet with someone who uses a screen reader. So let's pull in JAWS. Well, if I have a magnification user and then I have a screen reader user, I probably want someone who uses alternative navigation. So let's pull in Dragon Naturally Speaking for speech-to-text software. If I pull in a speech-to-text software, maybe I should also pull in a switch system user and pull in someone who uses Grid 3. You know what? I pulled in a Fusion user, but what about a Zoom text user who doesn't use the built-in speech screen reader? Well, I mean, I've only really worked with one screen reader user, so maybe I should pull in NVDA. Well, I did Grid 3, but I haven't actually worked with someone who uses a quad stick, which is a really different input, you know. It really has a lot of different features to it that Grid 3 doesn't have. And you know what? We worked with a few magnification users, but what about if they use color inversion or they really like dark mode? Oh, and I mean, we can't be remiss without voiceover. We got to do at least 3 screen reader users. And you know what? We didn't get a magnification user that scales font. I could keep going. I have stopped at 10, which I can tell from the room. They're already like, please stop. There are enough logos on the screen. We have talked about enough different types. And this is just the surface. I haven't even gotten to all of them. And so you get into a situation in UX research where you're like, well, I want to do a good job. I want to meet with everyone. But man, it's really easy to get overwhelmed. And so we thought, let's do a study. Let's see what actually happens if we don't meet with everyone. And so we thought about it in terms of rethinking saturation. And the UX research community, when you talk about saturation, it's framed as if I meet with one more person, I'm not going to get that much value out of that next person. But inclusive design, accessibility research, it's just not true. If I meet with one more person, I am going to get a different perspective. I am going to learn something new. I'll probably find something new about assistive technology, just in general, that I didn't know before this. And so switching that on its head of not when do I lose value, but what value can I get from starting small? And so we have 2 hypotheses that we have tested that I'll take you folks through. The first is that AT users uncover more. These are hypotheses. I will say that these were things we were working to validate. So for our first, we hypothesized that one unmoderated session with an assistive technology user produces more insights than 5 unmoderated sessions with a non-assistive technology user, general population user. You'll hear me say Gen Pop throughout today. Our second hypothesis, because some folks go, well, what about those usability findings? And so we hypothesized even after removing our technical accessibility findings, there will still be more insights from one assistive technology user than our 5 Gen Pop users. And so technical accessibility findings we categorized as things that were really code dependent. So does our heading have heading markup? Kind of sat in that category. And so we have our two hypotheses, and we look to validate them and uncover where we're at with them. Is it true? Is it not? What can we find? And so the way that we approached this was doing 3 studies, so also starting small, not trying to do the world in one study, but rather start small and see what we uncover quickly. And so for each of these studies, we worked with both Gen Pop users as well as assistive technology users. And each of our participants attempted the same task on a recorded, unmoderated usability study. And this is where my team comes into play. Everyone analyzed a different grouping. So only the person who was looking at screen reader looked at that data. They didn't look at the other study data until after we'd done our analysis, just to keep things a bit squared away and more realistic to, well, what would happen if you really had only met with this one person? In terms of tasks that we were doing, so we were using the CanadaHelps.org website for all of this. It's a pretty modern looking website. They keep it up to date. It's a nonprofit. All of these good things for kind of doing this guerrilla on the grounds research related to this work. And so for our 3 activities, we wanted a medley of different things that folks could do. And so search for a charity. Think about what's an important cause to you, find a charity that supports this cause, and you want to learn more about the charity and understand the charity's impact. So searching for information. Our second task was create an account. So create an account and log in, explore your account for a way to anonymously donate to charities. So that create account flow, that is so important to so many products. And then our final one, which was purchase a gift card. And so purchase a thank you gift card for $100. Make sure to write a thank you message. And please go as far as you can in the experience before stopping. So a purchase flow, but we didn't have folks actually complete that purchase. So a good medley of goals that you can have a user have in terms of going through things. And so let's chat a little bit about our participants before we dive into findings. For our assistive technology users, actually, I'll start broad with everyone in the sense of all of our participants were Canada and US based, and we had no repeat participants in this study. So if you did one session, you wouldn't be eligible to run research for any of those other tasks. And so for our AT users, we had 1 AT user per AT type per flow, which is just a fancy way to say I had 9 participants. So we had 3 JAWS users, 3 on OS magnification, and 3 on Dragon naturally speaking. Essentially, we just ran one cycle and then kept that assistive technology selection for our other groups. So these were different users, and every single person did a single task of those 3 groupings. For our Gen Pop users, we had 5 per flow, so for a total of 15. And the only screening we did was, do you use assistive technology, which would disqualify folks, because we wanted it assistive tech users and then folks who didn't leverage that. So what did we find? I know everyone's at the edge of their seat this morning, curious what we looked at. And so I'll start with search for a charity. And so we had a total of 36 takeaways across all 4 of our user groups. And so what this means is individual, unique takeaways. And so we might have had a finding that both our Gen Pop and our magnification users found that would only count as 1 takeaway. And we did this kind of overarching comparison at the tail end. So everyone did their initial analysis, and then we pooled those takeaways together, got rid of duplicates, and then kind of confirmed phrasing, but no one reanalyzed their findings at that stage. And so an example usability finding for this task was The mosaic tiling on the search results is really difficult to read, and actually it's pretty hard for your eyes to track because you get kind of one search result up here and then the other one's not in line with it, and then you get another one, and so users were having trouble tracking their eyes through that. For our technical accessibility finding, there was no programmatic search feedback, so that led a user to think search didn't work at all. I wonder which user group said that. On the screen, I have a screenshot of a part of the Canada Helps website, which features its search, filters, and you just see the start of the search results, but it's quite small. You might notice there are over 11,000 search results, which definitely played into some of our usability findings. So what did we find? On the screen, I have a bar graph with 4 groupings: GenPop users, screen reader user, magnification user, and alt-nav user, that alternative navigation. Our GenPop users found 18 findings, whereas our screen reader user found 14, our magnification user found 13, and our alt-nav user found 0. I don't know if you remember my hypothesis, but I said that one assistive tech user would find more than my 5 GenPop users, and I was proven wrong in this case. And so we looked at the data. I'm like, you know what? We usually don't recommend 1, though. We usually recommend 3, and so I'm going to uncover a 5th category of all AT users. So this is our screen reader, magnification, and alt-nav users findings put together. And we hit 25, so more than our GenPop users, but it took 3 assistive tech users to kind of find more than that one grouping of GenPop users. And so definitely that triangulation of findings is a key part of this, of different perspectives and different voices. And that 25 is also unique. And so we might have had our screen reader user and magnification user find the same takeaway, but we only counted it once. And so we had 25 versus 18, but hypothesis was still wrong. But we still have one more to test on usability. And so again, I have 4 groupings for our GenPop, screen reader, magnification, and alt-nav. And our GenPop users are sitting with their 18. Our screen reader user has dropped down from 14 to 7 usability-focused findings. So 7 of them were fully just technical findings. And then our magnification users holding strong with their 13 usability findings. Alt-nav with our 0, they loved the experience. So nothing wrong about that. When we group these groups together, we actually have a tie. So when we group our assistive technology users into 1, they had 18, which lines up with our GenPop users. And so, well, study 1, 2 for 2 in terms of finding our hypothesis false. And so our AT users didn't find more individually. And when we took out accessibility findings, the GenPop users still found more. I do want to call out, though, this is really we had 1 GenPop user who found 13 of the findings on their own, and they just knew a lot about charities. They were a target user group for this website. They knew what they wanted from search, they knew what they wanted from filters, and they weren't seeing it. And so they were able to give really rich feedback around their expectations, their perception of the website, whether they trusted it or not. And that's because they were that kind of target user that would be searching for a charity. And so that power of your targeted user base kind of coming out here. 2 more studies, though. Let's see where they go. So for our second study, creating an account, for this one, a little bit fewer, 25 takeaways across our 4 groups. And example takeaways from this, usability would be users were unsure where to create an account, as there's no clear CTA, call to action, on the home page. How many times have we been on a website and you only see sign in and it's like, maybe if I click it, I'll get to sign up, but I'm really not sure. This fell into that category. For our technical accessibility finding, an example here would be our speech-to-text user found that their click commands, so saying things like click your account, which would activate that button for them, it was getting inconsistent support, especially with drop-downs. And so they weren't actually able to say what they wanted. They had to fall back to other methods such as show links command or brute force show grid. Different numbers for this one. Our GenPop users had 6 takeaways that they found. Our screen reader users had 11, so almost double. But our magnification user had 7, and our AltNav user actually had 9. So in this case, every single one of our assistive technology users individually found more than our GenPop users. And so when we combined it, whoa, 22. Almost 4 times as many findings as our GenPop users. And I usually, when I'm chatting with folks, talk about how dense accessibility research feels. You meet with one person, you learn so much from their one exploration of going through a website. You find out accessibility bugs. You find out normal bugs that they just happen to stumble upon because they went in a way that you don't typically test. You find out the usability findings, but you're also finding things that are rooted in an accessibility finding, but it's impacted their usability in a different way. And so you get takeaways that compound on each other that I find just a little bit different than when you're just working with folks who don't use assistive technology. And so let's test our hypothesis 2. A little bit different. Our GenPop users still sitting with 6. But our screen reader users found 5 usability-focused findings, magnification users had 6, and AltNav had 4. So we have a tie, but my hypothesis was they would find more, not they would find the same number. And I mean, if we group folks together, we get double of 12 takeaways, but we're still seeing that difference in terms of our GenPop users finding only usability findings versus our assistive technology users who are finding a medley of both, but kind of at different rates. And so we have one more study to go through though, because we've got search, which had false, false, and now we have create account, which is true for our first takeaway, our first hypothesis, but false for our second. So home stretch. Let's see what our third study gives us. Purchase a gift card, a financial flow. How bad could it be? For our usability findings here, we had a user was unsure where to go after selecting a card type. For our technical accessibility finding, we had users' focus jumps to the top of the page after selecting a card type. These things are really intrinsically connected, but only one's a programmatic problem. But if you jump to the top of the screen, you're refinding your way, and you're not really sure where to go because you're so disoriented by the time you get back down to where you thought you were. And so we had 20 takeaways in total for this. On the screen, I have a piece of the website kind of showing the start of the purchase flow, where we have a number of buttons, we have almost a tab panel structure, and we see the hint of some graphics that let you choose that thank you card design, which our GenPop users absolutely loved. They found this experience intuitive, they found it easy, they loved how quick they could get through this purchase a gift card flow. They knew exactly where it was. Our screen reader users found 16 takeaways of things not labeled, not knowing where to go, not knowing where to find things. Our magnification users still found 3. There's some auto-moving content, which was really disorienting when you're really zoomed in on it. And our AltNav user who brute force went through show grid and took 20 minutes to do an activity that took one of our GenPop users under 3 minutes to do. And so only findings were found from our AT users for this grouping. We had such a difference of experience from our GenPop users on this flow versus our assistive technology users, which our other hypothesis kind of answers itself here. If you have no findings from our GenPop users, as long as we had one usability finding, this hypothesis was going to be true. And so our screen reader and AltNav user both had one really focused usability finding, which is interesting, because that means the majority of the things that our screen reader user ran into were around technical accessibility troubles. But our magnification user is still sitting at 3, and so every group found a different finding for this one. And so for all of our AT users across all groups, we had 5 takeaways. And so everyone bringing their own perspective. There were no repeats really happening in this one compared to our previous studies where that was more common. So my scorecard looks like this. I have 2 falses for search. I have 1 true, 1 false for create an account. And purchase gift card, I have true. And we're looking at this data and we're like, well, what do we do with this? It's so mixed, but that's the beauty of research, right? You never know what you're going to get. And I was absolutely delighted to be proven wrong on some things, right? You want to understand what's actually happening, not validating your assumptions. You want to use research to make decisions. You don't want it to be a validation for what you already know. We want to uncover and answer the questions we have with research and use it as that powerful tool. And so there felt like there was one more step we had to do with these numbers. There was something else we could frame in terms of discussing, and thought about it, and it's percentage of total takeaways uncovered by our 2 groupings. So our AT users and then our GenPop users. And so on the screen, I have a percentage-based bar graph with search. And for our AT users, of all of those 36 takeaways, they uncovered over 70% of them. And then our GenPop users, though, found 50%. And a lot of this was due to that power charity user who knew a lot about the space. And so there was a lot that he could give that our assistive technology users who weren't necessarily really focused on charities and donations couldn't provide in their feedback. And so kind of a nice complement happening there in terms of no group found everything. We still got value from working with both of those groups, but also just kind of seeing the power of what you're able to uncover with such a small group of folks. We had 36 takeaways, and we talked to just 8 folks, and that's a lot of time to tackle the findings, to actually do the effort to improve that experience. For our create account, we had kind of a bigger division happening, and so for this one, our AT users found over 80%, almost 90% of all of those uncovered takeaways, those 25. But our GenPop users still found some that we weren't able to uncover. There were more to the group, so more folks got lost along the way and found other interesting parts that one AT user couldn't do because they're one person. Maybe if we worked with more, we would have found more in that sense, but there is kind of power to talking to more than one user. For our gift card flow, our AT users were at 100%. They found everything that we uncovered in this study, whereas our GenPop users actually tell a very different story. And for this part of the study specifically, it speaks to the fact that just doing usability research with non-assistive technology users, it's not going to give you a picture of your product that's full. It'll give you a sliver. And that is to say, this is also a sliver. These 36 takeaways for search, that's probably not everything. But man, that's enough to start with, right? We can still do something with that. And so remembering that this isn't everything. This isn't an audit. We didn't find every finding that there probably is, but we know what's actually painful. What stopped people from going through the flow? What stopped people from finding a charity they actually wanted to support? in that sea of 11,000 findings, right? So it's enough to get started, and it's what I'm hoping that you come away from this with you have enough to get started, even if it's a small pool. You just have to understand it's not everything, and not thinking about it as everything, and that's not the goal. The goal is to improve and explore it again. The number of times I'll back up to tell a little anecdote. The number of times where I've scoped research and, because accessibility specialist by training, so even though you're in UX research, you poke around a little bit when you're writing a discussion guide. And I have one time where we were writing our discussion guide and there was a key feature that we were trying to get feedback on. And the button that opened that feature didn't move focus into that feature. And so as a researcher, I could say, you know what, for this protocol, we'll just move folks into that field verbally and tell them this is to come in the future, it's going to get fixed because it's a technical accessibility item, we know what's going on. But I had a really good relationship with that customer. And I said, you know what, is there anyone on the engineering team that you're kind of close with? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, could you just see if we can fix this before we run the study? Can we see if we can get this focus to move over first? And they're like, yeah, I'll see what I can do, no promises. And they got it fixed before we ran the study. And because of that small minor fix, we were able to uncover the swath of feedback around how people wanted it to read out, the expectations around the button of what they wanted it to say. Our magnification users were getting kind of piped into the area so they weren't disoriented. We had all of these findings that I wouldn't have found had I run that study without that correction. And so that was a little bit of me intervening of that accessibility specialist. But had I done kind of a quick check with one user, I'd be able to uncover those same things. And then we can kind of tackle those showstopper findings and get to those bigger usability findings that you can get when that basic kind of level of accessibility is met. And so from this talk, I'm hoping folks kind of take away what you can get from these pools. And so on one side, I'm phrasing it as targeted user pool, so not Gen Pop, but really speaking to that one power charity user almost. You can get a lot of knowledge that a general population user cannot in terms of insights around their preferences. You can uncover sentiment and perception of your product. They have expectations of what they want from you, and so they're going to behave differently on your experience. But on the other hand, for our assistive technology users, both targeted or Gen Pop, it's important to remember it's more than just accessibility findings. You can't truly decouple those things from each other. Usability is accessibility, and accessibility is usability, and they're finding both of these things in mix with each other, and also those findings are interacting with each other in a unique way that this group can uncover. But the other side is, I hope you take away, is starting small is okay. We found a lot of findings with just 3 users, but also with just 1. Specifically our screen reader and magnification groupings. They were able to really uncover and explore a lot of things that once you tackle those, that's when you start to run more research, to go from there and have that mindset that accessibility is not just a one-off. It's not something we do, we're done with for the year, our audit's done, and we kind of move on with life. It's a continual muscle that you have to build up, and you have to practice it to have the muscle to get there. And the other side of it, though, is that importance of diversity. So not just working with one assistive technology group, not going deep in one area, but instead trying to triangulate your different groupings. And so getting the mindset, the perspective of someone who's a screen reader user and seeing how that is with an alternative navigation user. Because the other side of it is sometimes folks' needs are in conflict with each other. And so you need to understand both sides to come up with a solution that actually does meet and doesn't disenfranchise someone more than you intended or more than you were unaware that you were doing, because so much of accessibility is road paved with good intentions. We aren't trying to make things accessible, but our ignorance can kind of lead us there. And so for next steps, as I wrap up my talk here, I have kind of 3 things that I'll be doing. Hopefully you will be dipping into UX research with assistive technology users or folks with disabilities just in general. But I'll be kind of raising awareness around this work in the terms of publishing a deeper dive into our study, what it looked like, other additional findings that we had from it, because this is just the surface, as always. We got to start somewhere. But also running more research. We only did 3 studies. They all had a different result in terms of our 2 hypotheses. And kind of going from here to run a couple of more and see how it stacks up as we collect more data there. And then the other side is continuing the dialogue. So I'm introducing this to our accessibility community here, but also getting this into the UX research community's hands so that we can have a dialogue, discuss, and hopefully get some feedback around the work and your thoughts and where things go. And so I will finish right on time and say thank you to the crowd that was here with me in the morning.